Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us for the regular meeting of the Trinity County Planning Commission, October 27th, 2022 at 6:05 p.m. If you'll all join me for the pledge, we'll get this meeting started. I have pledged allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Do we have Rory on Zoom tonight? You do not see him?
Yep, there he is.
Okay. Rory, if you could just confirm that you can hear us and acknowledge that. Sorry. Can you unmute?
I am. I have. There is, he's unmuted.
Okay. We'll go ahead and move forward. Rory Barrett, Planning Commissioner, is on Zoom. I'd like to open it now to public comment. Anybody from the floor or on Zoom can comment during this period. Members of the public may address the Planning Commission on a matter not listed on the agenda that is within the subject matter jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. Is there anybody on the floor that would like to speak? Please state your name.
Evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Tom Belenko, Douglas City. As I'm certain you're all aware, what is inaptly named Class K ordinance has passed from the Board of Supervisors just this last meeting. Congratulations and thank you for this body's work over many, many years to see that happen. What I would like to suggest, our work, I think, unfortunately, is not done on that. Maybe we could have a workshop or something, and maybe it's a joint board and commission workshop or something to help integrate that process and get people familiar with how it's going to work and maybe ask some questions, because we saw right at the last minute some opposition come up, and I think there are a few changes on roof pitch and whatnot. But I think the public is kind of a little curious and maybe not so up to date. I know the staff and commission has got your hands full with stuff to do, but maybe that would be a good use of the commission's time. And it seems like the kind of meeting we could have in Southern Trinity, Hayfork or even further south. So anyway, just throwing that out there. But again, thank you for all your efforts.
Thank you for your comments. Is there anybody else on the floor that would like to comment? Is there anybody on Zoom? Okay, at this time, if there's no other further comment, I'd like to close the public comment period of this and move on to our regular calendar. Item 1 is minutes. Approve the minutes of August 11th, 2022 and September 8th, 2022.
A motion to approve them.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passed. Item 2 is appeal of a director's decision. Director's decision to deny time extension application P-22-18 to extend tentative map P-17-36 pursuant to Trinity County Code Section 17.34.110A. The project parcel is located at 420 Blake Mountain Trail, Hyam Palm, APN number 011-210-035. Applicant K. Yordanoff, planner S. Fisher. This time I'd like to open this up to staff.
Thank you, Planning Commission Chair, Commissioners, and members of the public in the audience and on Zoom. I'm going to spend the next few minutes discussing P-22-20, which is an appeal of the Planning Director's decision to deny map extension of time application P-22-18. So this extension of time was of tentative parcel map P-17-36, which was originally approved by the Board of Supervisors in July of 2018 with a rezone from rural residential, from unclassified to rural residential with a 40-acre minimum. The tentative parcel map was a 4-parcel split with a remainder. The applicant was contacted in July of 2020 due to a state legislative extension of the map. Typically, tentative parcel maps are good for 24 months or 2 years, and they can get extensions of time up to 6 years. But due to COVID, the state legislature created an automatic extension, which extended this map to January of 2022. In December of 2021, the applicant submitted a subdivision modification request to change some of the conditions on the map based on conversation with the Department of Transportation, and that was submitted to the Planning Department. Due to understaffing and other reasons with the Planning Department, the application was not processed until it was brought back onto the Planning Department radar in April of 2022, when the applicant came to the Planning Commission and said, hey, you know, I submitted this in December, what's going on here? And so at that point, staff started processing the subdivision modification request, routing it to agencies. And at that time is when, because the correspondence of that January date was by one staff member, and then the other staff member who was processing it, which was me, wasn't aware of the pending expiration, and at that point, the past expiration. So in that final check of that subdivision modification request, it became very present that there was that January date that had already passed. So after contacting county council and our land use consultants and their surveyor to see if there was any other automatic extension of that map, it was determined that the map had expired. And so that was sent to the applicant and the applicant's agents in June of this year, June 2022. And there was an application for an extension of time based on, there was the subdivision modification request that was being processed, whether or not that qualified for an automatic extension, since there wasn't recent communication, since that communication had come in July of 2020 about that January date. But based on discussions with, again, county council and our land use consultants, we found that there really was no way that we could extend the map as it had already expired, even though we had not realized that it had expired until a few months after the fact, and when processing that subdivision modification request. So that being said, staff recommends that the Planning Commission deny the appeal of the director's decision. But alternatively, you can continue this to the next Planning Commission meeting or decide to grant the appeal if you wish to. And there is correspondence in the staff packet that has that the forwarding of the original email, that July 2020, and the letter from the agent stating, there was delays in staff processing, there was staff turnover. This kind of was like on the tail end of the pandemic. And so all of that is available with the resolution and the approved map and conditions. And I can answer any questions.
I have one for you. With everything being said, would you say the failure of this thing to get through was because of county staff levels?
The subdivision modification request, there could definitely have been more timely processing of that application. Yes.
Thank you.
Everybody's on.
Yours is on.
Yep.
Todd's is on. It's just you two.
Tap it.
Video, yeah. That's a good call.
This work? Oh, great. So if the commission would like to consider allowing the applicant to proceed with this application for a subdivision modification, you said that one option is to continue this item until the next meeting for additional information. So what additional information would you be providing at the next meeting?
Any information you would request on this item?
Would we have the option to have a resolution at that time to, proceed with the subdivision modification, similar to the resolution that was passed in 2018? Or does he have to start all over again with the application?
So if it is determined that the map is expired, that would restart the process of subdividing the property, yes.
Is there a fee then associated with reapplying for the subdivision map?
Yes.
What are our options to avoid that?
One potential option is going to the Board of Supervisors for a fee waiver.
Okay.
If I may, is it within the commission's authority to extend the map timeline or the expiration of it?
I suppose if you grant the appeal, then the extension of time request is now valid, which means, so upon application of an extension of time request for a tentative map processing, it grants an automatic 60-day extension of time. Now that's typically prior to the expiration, but if we're kind of viewing it under that lens, then yes.
Okay.
Is there any other questions for staff?
No, I don't have anything.
Anything from Commissioner Barrett?
No, just watching along. I'll save my points of view till we have our opinions to vote.
Thank you. Okay, thank you for that report, Ms. Fisher. At this time, I'd like to hear from the applicant.
Hi. Hi, I'm Krasimir Yordanov from Kayampom, applicant for that subdivision. I already been here a few times. I don't know what else to say, but even with extension of time, I don't have anything more to submit for that case because everything being already submitted in December before expiration. And one other really important things I have to say, and until May, I had even CAL FIRE inspection about that project. Passed good inspection, they were happy. And just in June, planning department came out with that it's expired in January. But all March, April, and May, I've been working with them for about all that. And we submitted everything. Anybody asked me of the county, any kind of paperwork, everything. And that was before expiration. And actually, a year and a half ago, I have an email from previous director, hey, we have to do that before expiration of the day of January, or we have to extend that. She said that, Lisa Lozier. Then I'm just asking for extension to have legal way to finish that project, because actually that extension of time, that appeal is just because of planning department name, because they don't have right to appeal for extension of time. Then kind of I'm doing that because they are out of time, not me. But whatever is happened, just I need more time to be able in a legal way to finish that case. That's all I ask for. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that. Do we have any questions for the applicant? Oh, thank you, sir. Okay, at this time, I'll bring it back or open it up for public comment. Is there anybody here on the floor that would like to comment on this, or anybody on Zoom? Take the floor first. Please state your name.
Good evening, Chair Lisa Wright and Commissioners. Lewiston. So what I'd like to ask is that you grant the appeal and reverse the denial. I think that's granting the appeal. I always get those two mixed up. To allow this to proceed. I think one of the important things that of note is that the map was improved in July of 2018. And there was no correspondence. There had been numerous attempts by the applicant to interact with DOT. And it wasn't until July of 2021 that correspondence went out. So there was a 3-year waiting period where this applicant was attempting to interact with the DOT. And they were totally unresponsive, to him. So there are kind of a lot of, I say a comedy of errors, but there's the pandemic on top of things, staff shortages. So I really feel like the applicant has done everything that has been asked of him in really a timely way. But if we look back at these delays, a 3-year delay in getting back to someone in a subdivision, he's looking to grow the the economy of High Palm and Trinity County, adding tax base and additional property taxes. And I think this kind of activity should really be encouraged, that we really need that. And if you would agree with the decision to deny it, he'll have to start the whole process over. And it will be very, financially harmful to him, but also, to the benefit of the non-benefit of the community and the county as a whole. So I do ask that you grant the appeal and allow this to proceed. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there any other comments from the floor?
Evening, Mr. Chair, members of the commission, Tom Belanco, Douglas City. I'm certainly in favor of granting this appeal. I've known Chris since before this started. I did not work specifically on this project with him, but we talked about it on and off for years. Much of that time was him waiting on responses, understanding that, the priorities of the county at the behest of people like me, were elsewhere. It doesn't seem like this is a lapse on his part. And it, as I read the staff report here, I'm personally a little bit confused by the government code section that's cited, that says the expiration of the approved or conditionally approved tentative map shall terminate all proceedings. Okay, I get that part. But it talks, the next sentence says, once a timely filing is made, subsequent actions of the local agency, including but not limited to processing, approving, and recording, may lawfully occur after the date of expiration of the tentative map. Delivery to the county surveyor or city engineer shall be deemed a timely filing for purposes of this section. Now, what I don't understand about that is in December of 2021, he submitted the post-subdivision modification application. And then the expiration presumably was January of 2022. So I don't understand why that submission doesn't count as at least some form of engagement of we're still here. And as he said, throughout the spring, they were working as if this was still an ongoing project. So I'd like to honor that effort on the county and applicant's part. And just, if we can do that with your vote to bring this to conclusion, I certainly think we should. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there any others from the floor? Any on Zoom?
There are, yes.
Olivia Cocavo. Olivia? Can you, you need to unmute. Come on.
Oh, are we there?
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Thank you for allowing me to unmute. Jake Grossman Chris from Hayfork. Good evening, Commission and Chair. Sadly, I think at this point, after years and years of these meetings, I can call myself a expert witness to the happenings of the Planning Commission, the Board of Supervisors, the Planning Department, and all sorts of Trinity County happenings. I kind of wish that I couldn't at this point, but here we are. And I've watched this subdivision for years now go through. I remember the first time that it came before us, and some of the things that kind of strike me with this is that there's two polarized positions here. I've gotten to go to Hyam Palm and see some of Chris's businesses. I've gotten to see the role he plays in that community, and some of the things that I've noticed is that he is punctual, he's clean, his properties, his businesses run like clockwork. Quite frankly, he's single-handedly carrying, I think, all of the businesses in Hyam Palm in a very impressive manner. On the flip side of that coin, I think everybody here, I've watched Commissioner Duncan McIntosh go through it. I've watched Mr. Sharp deal with frustrations with it, is getting anything processed with our county. I remember there being an ad in the newspaper asking how long you wait for an email from the DOT. Is somebody really supposed to wait years to hear back from an agency we're required to deal with to go through these processes? I would hope that this commission is able to find a way to direct staff to get the job done. To ask somebody to restart a process purely because our turnover rate in this department is astronomical, or because people had other priorities. I don't know what the words are: unjust, fair, egregious. Here's somebody who's trying to move forward a community that, quite frankly, doesn't have a lot of oomph behind it. I think we need more more investing in communities. And I don't know the ins of what you guys can do to happen. Hope that this commission can come together to have a positive outcome and move the project forward. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for your comments. Is there any other comments on Zoom?
Yes, sir.
That's good.
Marie Peterson.
Hi, this is Marie Peterson, District 1. What?
We can
Can you
hear you,
hear me?
Marie. Go ahead.
You can hear me? Okay. I also know Chris from working with him on some land management projects. And I found him to be extremely attentive and engaging. He's always doing his part in a timely manner. And I'm very impressed by the way he manages his lands. And when I've heard about this project for years and looking at the email correspondence, I just think it would almost be victimizing him to try to deny this so that he would have to start over because he's waited so long and it's just subdividing into 4 parcels. I feel like he has done everything on his part. And so I just ask you guys to please vote to extend the map and help push this through however you can. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Is there any other comments on Zoom?
Yes, we do.
Where did Jeff go? Did he change his mind? Okay. Liz McIntosh.
Good evening, Commission. Liz McIntosh, Junction City. I don't know this applicant at all, but it sounds like a great injustice has been done. And so I super appreciate you all up there because when our systems break down, there's a tool such as yourselves to be able to right the wrong. So I hope you do that tonight and allow this man to go forward. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Anyone else?
No.
Okay. At this time, we're going to close the discussion to public comment and bring it back to the chair for discussion, or the board, excuse me. Okay. Do I have a motion?
Sure. So I'd like to move that we grant appeal of time extension for project P1736.
Okay, we'll bring that to the commission for discussion.
A second.
Um,
Do you have a second?
Commissioner
Second. on that
Commissioner
motion.
Rory Barrett says he's muted, but I will second that.
All right, do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second that.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the commission for discussion.
Is Chair is Commissioner Barrett.
I'm trying to get him.
Thank you.
Okay, well,
We can hear you.
commissioners, like to open it up for discussion. Is there anything you guys would like to talk about in regards to the motion?
Well, it's clear that the applicant wants to follow through on this project and has been acting in good faith to follow through on this project that has been dragging on for a long time. And so I don't see any reason to stop this project and start it over, which denying this appeal would start the project over.
Yeah, I think I'm in agreement with that and maybe even go a step further, approve the appeal, reinstate the project, and honestly put our best foot forward to put them on a fast track to get the project done and try to kind of make amends for our lack of due diligence.
Couldn't have said it better, Commissioner Sharp. That's exactly how I feel. I think the applicant has been treated horribly by the county. Every time he has presented himself here in public, he continues to be gracious, courteous, and present as a gentleman. in my opinion, just as you said, we should put our best foot forward and help expedite this poor gentleman and finally get his project, after what is coming up on 5 years, back on track.
I agree wholeheartedly.
If I may, I would just like to add that there has been a lot of turnover at the planning department, and we have been involved in a pandemic. And I would like to just assume that everyone is doing what they can with the resources and the tools that they have. But this, the applicant really wants to follow through on this project, which will provide development in our county, increase our tax base, and there's no downside to it.
Agreed.
I agree.
Okay, I think with that, we can go ahead and have a vote.
We'll do a roll call since
Mhm.
Commissioner Barrett is on Zoom. Commissioner McIntosh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Fall, how do you vote? Aye. Commissioner Sharp, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Heaton, how do you vote?
Aye.
And Commissioner Barrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. 5-0 to grant the appeal of Mr. Yordanov's.
Mr. Yordanoff, good luck with your project. Thank you for your patience. Okay, we're going to move on to item number 3, appeal of director's decision, appeal of planning director's decision to approve commercial cannabis license CCL 262 and commercial cannabis variance CCV 2022-29 pursuant to Trinity County Code Section 17.34.110A. The project parcel is located at 311 Ward Placer, Weaverville, APN number 024-680-035. Applicant V Sharp, planner S Fisher. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and recuse myself from this as I am part of the complaint.
Okay.
So Duncan, if you would take over.
Associate Planner Fisher.
Thank you, planning commissioners and members of the audience here and on Zoom. I'm going to spend the next few minutes discussing Appeal P-22-22, which is an appeal of the director's decision to approve commercial cannabis cultivation license 262 and commercial cannabis cultivation variance renewal CCV-22-29. The planning director approved both projects on September 28th, 2022. And both approvals were appealed early October 3rd, 2022. And this was based on the impact of the cultivation on the surrounding neighborhood and the concern of the variance in proximity to the surrounding neighbors. The site is zoned unclassified with a rural residential general plan designation, which is consistent with commercial cannabis use. And as a little bit of project background, as part of the submission package of the appeal application, there is a narrative that cites transportation concerns and also a picture from June 2022 showing cultivation prior to the approval or issuance of the license. And so the reason why the license was approved by the director is because cannabis consultants LACO prepared a compliance memo for the license's Appendix C, which basically says that the license is consistent with the cannabis program EIR and is accurate and adequately scopes in the impacts of the cultivation operation on the parcel. And if there's any necessary mitigations or conditions that need to go into place, it addresses that as well. And part of that assessment involves variance and it involves transportation impacts. And I included an excerpt from the Appendix C, which specifically speaks to transportation mitigations that would have to be applied by the cultivation going into place. And it doesn't exactly speak to, it doesn't, I don't want to say it doesn't speak to the concerns in a way of like it doesn't address the concerns, but it doesn't have the, it doesn't, there wasn't a concern presented in the Appendix C that the cultivation would have the potential to negatively impact the nearby roadways. And so we're going to be reliant on that environmental document that it adequately assesses what those impacts are. So based on that, as staff, we have to have confidence in that in some degree. And we also got some comments submitted on the project as well, which speaks to neighbors' impressions on the cultivation on the roads. And from what we've seen, there hasn't been a concern from other neighbors. In addition, I reached out to code compliance staff. There were several complaints submitted around the time of this photo. Code compliance, I believe, did 3 or 4 inspections on this property, and even around the date that this photo was taken, and haven't found, every time they went, they haven't found any unpermitted cultivation activity. So upon working with cannabis environmental compliance staff, and after talking to cannabis code compliance staff, the planning department doesn't believe that the cannabis cultivation would have negative impacts on the surrounding community. Now, addressing the variance, we have to apply the normal criteria for a variance on the parcel. And as part of the packet, I did include that residential setback buffer. And there are multiple residences shown on the map as being part of the cultivation buffer. And looking at the criteria, it doesn't seem that there is really anywhere that the cultivation can move for it to be not within 350 feet of a residence, just because it's surrounded almost at all sides at this point, if not all sides, by residences. Right. And so because of that, we think that they're, in a way, that's like a shape or size barrier, because there's nowhere it can really go to meet that variant setback. In addition, we determined that it wouldn't grant a use that otherwise wouldn't be allowed in the district by granting the cultivation variance based on comments submitted by neighbors in combination with the scoping within the Appendix C document. There have been no findings from staff accepting the appeal letter that was submitted that state that there will be a negative impact on public health or welfare of the adjacent properties or in general. And there were no findings that the proposed project would be adverse to the general plan or any specific plans, including the Weaverville Community Plan. And finally, the the project parcel, I should say, is not located within the RD1 overlay zone. So taking a look at all those criteria, the variance is consistent with those and is consistent with the standards laid out in the cannabis ordinance. So based on that evaluation and discussions with cannabis staff, as well as comments submitted by neighboring residences in support, staff recommends to approve this, or excuse me, to deny the appeal and approve the director's decision, or uphold the director's decision, uphold the director's decision to approve CCL 262 and CCV 22-29. In the original staff recommendation, it said to move the item. The applicant wasn't available initially, but then became available. He wanted to attend and said, hey, let's keep it moving forward. So we kind of shift that on you. I apologize. But alternatively, we can move the item, or we can grant the appeal to deny the director's decision. And if you have any questions, please let me know.
Thank you so much, Ms. Fisher. Does anybody have questions for staff?
I have a few. So is there This is a private road. Is there a written road maintenance agreement between the different landowners? As far as who's responsible for maintaining the road?
I would have to do research on that and get back to you.
And how many square feet of cultivation is there?
It is up to 10,000 square feet.
Well, I understand that's what the criteria is, but how many square feet is he proposing? How close is he from a small operation to a medium?
So there is a total of roughly 2,400 square feet of immature canopy and roughly 9,800 square feet of mature canopy on the site.
2,400 of immature and how many?
9,800.
That's over 10,000.
So we have cannabis staff on call, but my understanding is that the immature is not counted in that 10,000 square feet. That's just mature.
Well, the ordinance says cultivation includes immature and mature.
I will have to rely on cannabis staff on call.
Maybe we can call and ask them. I mean, I can read it to you. I brought my zoning book.
Director, is there staff able to address that?
Yeah, they should be on Zoom. I think we're reaching out to them right now.
Drew, are you available?
Yeah, good evening, Chair, Commissioners. Drew Plabani, Environmental Compliance Specialist and Acting Division Director for the Cannabis Division. Commissioner Fall, I would love for you to read the code section for us, and then we can have a discussion.
I'm looking it up while further discussion questions.
Is there any more discussion or any questions for staff?
Has the applicant completed his EIR and everything, and that is all current and in effect? And that is in good standing?
Yes, the Appendix C has been noticed.
Okay, and does the EIR address the concerns with the road conditions?
So that is part of the impacts that are scoped into the Appendix C, because the Appendix C is kind of just acknowledging and wrapping in all of what's in the EIR and like a site-specific document. So part of that is transportation impacts.
Perfect, thank you.
I have one. When this gentleman originally applied for his cannabis deal, how many houses were in the area at the time? Or were all the houses still there that fall into this 350-foot category, or was it some of them not there? Or do you know the answer to that?
I don't know the exact number of residences that were surrounding the parcel when the cultivation originally started, but I know that there has been some new development in that area since the cultivation started. So some new residences which were added to the setback.
And are those new residences the ones that are appealing this decision?
So I reached out to the applicant to verify that they were one of the residences in the area, because the applicant, we check like ownership to verify if they're like a resident, because we take in more weight if you're a resident within the setback and you don't want a cultivation to be in the variance. But I didn't get an answer back, so I'm not sure which house the applicant is in.
But the appellant is not on the title of any home surrounding that property.
No.
Is what you're saying? Okay, thank you. And can I ask, can anybody appeal any project?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
No.
Yeah,
No.
wait until you'll have your chance. Is there any more questions for staff?
Not at this time.
Commissioner Fall, we can give a moment for you to find that.
I'm still looking.
Okay.
Keep going.
Okay. So if I may, how many residents are within the 350-foot setback of the premise?
So just looking at the site map, there looks to be two, because on the 310 residence, it looks like the house is actually where like the little address marker is not where the actual structure is.
And so there, it would require two different variances, or variances from two different properties.
Right.
And the initial variance was granted with input from the public, and then there's been directors since. So has there been any appeals or suggestions to not grant this variance from those neighbors since this project has began?
There was one appeal of the license in the past, but the appeal was not granted.
Mm-hmm. And how long has this license been, say, in good standing or licensed within this county?
I don't have that information in front of me, but maybe the applicant can speak to that.
Okay, thank you.
Since the initial variance was granted, has the I don't want to use the word defendant, has the property owner that's in question expanded his property, or has he stayed within the guidelines of that initial variance?
So the question is whether or not the cultivation has expanded since the initial variance.
Right, or is that person being diligent with his land use? He has not expanded his operation. He is staying within what he was initially granted as a variance.
I don't have the original site map in front of me, so I would have to get back to you with that question.
Okay, thank you.
Well, if there are no more comments or questions for staff, and we can address that when you find it, we can definitely ask. Drew is on the line. We will open it up to the applicant or the appellant.
Hello, my name is Vincent Sharp. I live at 240 Ward Placer. I do own my property. I'm kind of kitty cornered to DeAndre. I've lived there about 3 years now. There is a lot of commercial cannabis on Oregon Mountain, but currently there's none on Ward Placer. It's a small dirt road with this, I think, 8 homes on it totally. On June 1st, around 11 a.m., I noticed that DeAndre was growing cannabis in 2 of his greenhouses. He did not have a license, and I reported it to the county around noon that day. Also took a picture. You guys should have the picture. I included with my appeal. I was working there at the time, and by 3:30 on the same day, those 2 greenhouses were completely empty. So a 3-hour period of me putting an appeal in, those greenhouses were completely empty. Later, I found out that the applicant in March had purchased another property nearby, about a quarter mile away at 3791 Oregon Mountain Road. He bought it under an LLC, Livingston Holdings. I have a copy of that deed and a public copy of his LLC, and it shows that he owns it. As of this day, I have pictures. He has a couple hundred plants growing there as well. It's right around the corner. I included those pictures as well in my appeal. I don't know if you guys received those or not, but I brought copies. This is my picture originally from June 1st. I took a picture today. This just shows that there is, weeds, not marijuana in the greenhouse. It's overgrown. This is the picture I took on June 1st. Clearly, it is not weeds, but cannabis. I also have pictures of the other property with marijuana on it as of today at 12:50 p.m. There is no residence on this other property, And DeAndre's workers are living at 311 Ward Placer and driving his ATVs and trucks to work that at the grow site. DeAndre's decision to grow without a license has blatantly proven that he's not willing to follow the most basic regulation of our county, which is that you must be licensed to grow marijuana and sell cannabis. In my line of work, if I operate without a license, I can be charged with a felony. Growing without a license means that the applicant has to sell his product on the black market, and this is what concerns me. What's that?
Please keep your comments to yourself.
And this is what concerns me because it brings a criminal element into my community. Last year, Commissioner Sharp provided statistics from the Sheriff's Department showing over 75% of all violent crime over the last 4 years were directly involved with cannabis. The common response that I heard was that it was only from the illegal cannabis grows. Well, my neighbor has shown that he's more than willing to cross that thin line into the legal cannabis market. And as of this day, 12:50 p.m., he's currently doing it. My question is, how can the county grant someone a license and a variance to the county code to an individual that's not willing to follow the rules? How do I know that as soon as he gets his license, he won't continue to operate however he pleases with zero regards to his neighbors and community? There's a stream that runs right by his property. How do I know that he's not going to dump his chemicals in that stream that most people rely on for their water? If anybody can grow legally without any repercussions, I don't see the point of having a cannabis division at all. Why waste the community's time and money when people can just do what they want without any consequences? The Board of Supervisors has invited commercial businesses into basically every neighborhood and dirt road in Trinity County. I would appreciate to see the most basic regulation of not being allowed to grow without a permit actually be enforced with at least some consequences. Not award these actions by giving them a variance. If you guys, that's all I got. If you guys want these pictures.
Yes, please. Thank you.
What's that?
Do you have 10 copies?
I do not. At this point. I can get more, but.
I need 10 copies to submit.
Okay, I wasn't aware.
And it's on.
Okay, apologize.
Thank you.
Thank you.
If you may, you could stay up there. So if there's any questions from the commission, does the commission have any questions for the appellant?
I have one. Looking at the residential setback map,
Yep.
this one right there.
Okay.
Which house is yours? Is it the one with the number 250 by it? Is that the one?
It's 240 Ward Placer, technically.
But
I don't have that in front of me.
because there's a 250 right here. Yeah,
I believe that those are.
But that's the only 250 on the map. There's a 30 and there's a 201 and 310. So it's like, I don't know. That's might be.
Mhm.
I'm right here. Yep, I'm right here.
So which one was it?
Mr. Sharp has indicated that he's over here,
Mhm.
outside of
Of the view?
outside of the view, yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
My property line ends directly across the street from his operation.
Commissioner Fall, do you have any questions for the appellant?
No.
Commissioner Barrett?
No, not at this time.
So I'm not sure if you're aware, but the planning commission is only, our purview is legal garden, legal businesses.
Right.
If there are illegal businesses happening, have you consulted the sheriff's department?
I have, and when I did put my complaint in about the legal operation, I did it through the county website. I only put one complaint in. I put multiple on the other properties. Nothing has happened. We've reached out to the sheriff's department. Nothing's happened. I think there might have been some confusion thinking that I was complaining about the 311 property, and staff might have been sent there multiple times instead of the other one.
Mhm.
but as of today, nothing's happened.
Yeah, that's the purview of the sheriff's department. Our purview is the project that's at hand. The
Okay, then why
license.
is the complaint on the planning website then? When I called it, that's where they told me to submit the complaint.
That's a good question. My understanding is that the sheriff's department is where illegal cannabis activities get addressed. Staff, can you address why that goes to the complaints go to the planning department?
Are you still there, Drew?
Okay, Drew.
Good evening again. Sorry, I was muted, so I couldn't respond. My understanding of the process is, well, I couldn't tell you why it's located there on the planning department website, but what I can tell you is the process that exists is that if we receive complaints that are outside of the purview of the cannabis division, we forward those complaints directly to code enforcement at the sheriff's department. I know we should have Daniel Marvel, who's our lead code compliance specialist, also available to answer questions as it relates to his inspections or this complaint referral process as it exists. Thank you.
Thank you, Drew. Also, these pictures that that were taken.
Yep.
Were they able to be taken like from afar, or did you climb up over the fence?
No, just from the road.
From the road, that it can just, the elevation can be seen from there.
Exactly.
Mhm. Is there any more questions for the appellant? Okay,
I have one more comment, if I may.
yeah,
So I called the sheriff's department. They directed me to the website on the planning commission
mhm,
website. And that's the route I took after making a phone call.
mhm.
So that's where my complaints went
Thank you.
every time.
Well, I think before public, would we hear from the applicant prior to public comment?
Did you find that information?
Yeah, just so to follow up, it's in chapter 17.43G under definitions. So cultivation means the planting, growing, harvesting, drying, or processing of cannabis plants or any part thereof. It doesn't make a distinction between immature and mature. It just says cannabis plants. And so I would assume that the total square footage should be inclusive of, I think any logical person would be immature or mature, since it's not separated out in the definition.
So looking at the numbers, then he is 2,200 square feet over.
And if it's over 10,000 square feet, the variance from adjoining residences is 500 feet, not 350.
So this project has gone through the analysis of CEQA with the EIR. Many different agencies have been there. I'm assuming that it is they are within their license. And so
So maybe we'll save that for discussion.
okay. Yeah, thank you. Okay, so before we bring it to public comment.
Good evening, Mr. Vice Chair, members of the commission, Tom Belanco. I'm addressing the commission on behalf of the applicant who is present, despite this being the due date of his daughter. So thank you for hearing this. I do want to say at the outset, for 6 years now, we have measured mature canopy. 10,000 square feet refers to mature canopy. It does not refer to cultivation. It refers to mature canopy. That's state law, that's county law. It's been that way since 2016. That's that. The other thing is these pictures, and I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's start with the beginning. This is one of the first properties inspected after an Appendix C. He was very prompt with his Appendix C. I believe this was, if not the first day of county inspections went to this property. He's been proactive with his license. I like the previous applicant, I've known DeAndre for some time now. He is a person, I think the county has access to metric. You can check his metric. And it is solid. It has been solid as long as there's been metric. He's complied with all the requirements that CEQA has. He's had the variance since, I believe, 2018. Neither of the appellants are within the 350-foot setback. One property, I believe he also rents or leases or has people in. Another property did not appear cannabis laws have been developed in Trinity County. And some of them live across the street from DeAndre. That's where we are. That's the way it is. But he's following the law. He's following what the county says he's supposed to do. Now I'll get to the pictures because there is a consideration that, oh, he's not following the law. In addition to the inspection in March, the property was inspected in June after a complaint. Then the property was inspected in July after a complaint and the same pictures. And these inspections were Daniel Marvel. This, you should know your staff. He doesn't miss cannabis on a property if it's there. He sees it. That's what he does. He's well known for that. You should love him for it. We love him for it too in our own special way. There are weeds growing in these greenhouses. There is not weed without the S growing in there. Ask Daniel Marvel was there. I was there for the July inspection. And these are not cannabis plants. So I would just go with your staff member on that one. And, you know, DeAndre will come up and answer any questions you may have about particulars, but this is an appeal that's based on, you know, feelings about the way the program is in basic. It's not specific. It's not saying, oh, they didn't look at the setback from this creek. They didn't look at the way this cannabis waste is managed. He did everything that the programmatic EIR asked him to do. He's done everything the license is required. And these are challenging requirements, and everybody knows that. So I think he should be allowed to go forward. And we should set a standard that when there is an appeal of a license, it comes with some facts. If we're appealing CEQA, let's see some environmental considerations. This isn't the time to say, oh, our EIR doesn't adequately address that. The EIR is closed now. It is what it is. So as long as we're in compliance with the EIR, that is what is required. And DeAndre has met that, and he should be allowed to proceed with his business. Thank you.
If you wouldn't mind staying up there. So if there's any questions from staff, from the commission.
I just wanted to point out that the definition of a small outdoor cultivation is an outdoor cultivation site between 5,001 and 10,000 square feet of total canopy. It doesn't say mature, it's definition of canopy. So again, I read the rules, you know, my job is to help implement the regulations. So I'm not a grower. So I'm reading it going, okay, total canopy, and cultivation includes all the processing, all the components, the plants and any part thereof. So to a non-grower grower, I'm thinking that includes mature and immature in that 10,000 square feet. Sorry.
And if anyone should know, Commissioner, I think you're right there at the top of people that ought to. I will find that section.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. I'm always educable.
We all endeavor to be.
Thank you. Well, there's different, yeah, thank you. You're good. Perspectives, but maybe we can get county council to get some bedrock clarity to put that to rest or to address it.
I don't see them online.
No. Okay. Well, at this time then, so there is no county council present?
We've reached out, so.
Thank you. When they are available, let us know, please. At this, yes, Drew, if you would like to, if you could add some clarity to this, that would be nice.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner. Give me 1 second. I'm working off my phone, so I have to sort of swap back and forth between Zoom. If you look in the definition section, below the definition of mixed light, if you go down to outdoors or outdoor cultivation, means the cultivation of mature cannabis without the use of artificial lighting in the canopy area. The state regs are pretty clear, and to my knowledge, we've always adhered to that standard. So the license types are specific only to mature canopy.
So could you repeat that section, please?
Yes, if you look in the definitions
Of which section?
of 1743,
Which section is definitions?
I'm sorry, I have to scroll. It's 1743.010 definitions.
Okay, so the zoning handbook that is handed to planning commissioners doesn't have that.
That is our ordinance as I understand it.
Okay, perfect. I will go home and find that or online.
Thank you. DeAndre, would you like to speak? A representative has always already spoken for you.
Right. And I do believe that from the representative and from staff, you've heard the facts based on the business and the license itself. So I stand here only to address you as a human behind the business. And this is really tough for me. I had to make a decision today whether or not I was going to stay at my residential home, my secondary home, because Weaverville has been my primary residence since I moved here in 2311 Ward Placer Place in 2017, February of 2017. My daughter was supposed to be born today, and thank God she decided to hold off. My wife is scheduled to be induced November 2nd. Sorry, I'm a little taken aback. And although it's a surprise that I'm here today, I guess it was to be expected. The license was appealed in 2020 by William Sharp, Commissioner William Sharp, and his son, Vincent Sharp, spoke then. And I thought that after we, True North Family Farms, and myself and Sharp Electric did business together, where they came and installed an electrical upgrade service, as well as other components, as well as other components of my electrical needs to the site, whereby which Vincent himself worked there. Sharp and I, William and I, shook hands as neighbors. And I've always sought to be a neighbor first instead of just a business owner on Ward Placer Place. And I've always sought to be a community member here in Trinity County. I spend my dollars local. I shop local, be it for the business or for my own personal needs. I've donated to LaGrange, or to the Grange in Junction City. The business has. We also initiated a toy drive with Flora just last year, amid one of the greatest economic recessions we've ever seen. But I've always wanted to give back to my community. We're members of the Trinity County Ag Alliance. We're members of the Weaverville Chamber of Commerce. And I love Trinity County. I don't mean any harm to this community, to the environment or its people. I stand here today in hopes that you all will deny this appeal and examine the facts carefully. And I hope that maybe I've been able to shed some clarity as a human, not just a business owner. Thank you.
Thank you, DeAndre.
May I ask you a question, sir?
Yes, sir.
You said you moved on to the mountain February 2017.
Yes, sir. And when I moved to the mountain, Asia Collins, William Sharp, and Vincent Sharp were not there. At the time my property was first issued its license, none of these parties were there either. And like I said, these same individuals helped me to conduct business on the property to get it to where it stands today.
Thank you.
Thank you. Answer my question.
Is there any questions for the applicant from the commission?
Well, for both the appellant and the applicant, I had asked staff earlier whether or not there was a like a road kind of maintenance agreement.
I actually wrote just a letter, to my neighbors addressing the idea of a road committee in 2019. William, I believe, occupied his property at that time. And I'm not sure if he saw it or not, but it's been an idea of mine since the inception. We honestly don't, our Appendix C does provide mitigation efforts, but we live on that property. I don't have workers. This is a family-run operation. I occupy 311 Ward Place. So does my brother, who's standing in the back, and my cousin. We're the ones that work on this farm. This is a small family-owned and operated business. We do legal business in the cannabis industry. Our product can be found in dispensaries from Northern to Southern California.
Thanks for that information. I live on a private road, and there's an agreement, a written agreement between the landowners to maintain the road. And so I'm just trying to figure out if you guys had something similar.
And that's something we'd be absolutely open to. Also, the two properties that are directly affected by the variance, we occupy both of those properties as well. And Vincent, his property is about a quarter mile from my property. And Asia, hers is approximately a half mile. Yeah, we're here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this point, I will open this to public comment.
I'm Terry Sharp, and I'd like to add my voice in opposition to the issuance of a CCL and CCB for the parcel located at 311 Ward Placer Place. As a resident myself living near DeAndre's cannabis grow, I'm strongly opposed to the renewal of his operating license due to the disregard for the laws that govern cannabis in Trinity County. Let me expound a bit. While being unlicensed, he blatantly disregarded the law and grew cannabis on his property. This is where it gets interesting. When activity of the grow was reported to the planning department, DeAndre moved all of his plants to a different site down the road. All this to be said, if DeAndre goes into such great lengths to operate illegally, what else is he willing to do? I saw the same marijuana plants as miserably not weeds. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment?
Hi, my name is Asia Collins, and I'm asking you to approve the appeal of the license at 311 Ward Plaza. It's on a one-lane dirt road with only a few residential properties and is not made nor sustainable for commercial growth. My husband and I purchased a home at 41 Ward Placer Place in February of this year. We moved to Ward Placer for the promise of solitude and the peace and quiet of a small neighborhood. After purchasing and settling into our home, we realized that there was an illegal commercial grow on our road at 311 Ward Placer belonging to DeAndre Johnson. We would go for walks on our road and we could clearly see his cannabis plants in the greenhouse. Because of the smell and heavy traffic daily on our road, my husband and I made a complaint with the county in June, hoping they would shut down his grow. DeAndre moved his plants from the 311 Ward Plaza property. However, the smell and heavy traffic continued. Instead of abiding by the laws, DeAndre had started another illegal commercial grow at 3791 Oregon Mountain Road, which is still active. We again made a complaint with the county, hoping that this time serious actions would be taken, as it is clear he has no regards for the law. However, in September, we had received a letter in the mail informing us that the county had granted DeAndre with a license for commercial grow at 311 Ward Placer Place and was asking us to make an exception because of the fact that it did not meet the basic requirement of being no more than 350 feet of our residential home. The idea that someone can break the law time and again, then be rewarded by being granted a license does not hold any merits to the integrity of the business or the county who gave the license. Please uphold the appeal and deny this license. Thank you.
Could I ask you, you said that it's that 311 passer, the cultivation area is within 350 feet of your home?
Yes, I received a letter from the county stating that it's within 350 feet.
Okay, thank you.
That's the whole reason why I'm appealing, so.
Skylar, could you address that?
So which house?
Oh, hold on. Oh, please hold.
All parcels which are 300 feet from the project parcel are notified of the director's decision if he's approving a CCV or a director's use permit or a license.
300 feet of the parcel, not of the cultivation zone.
Yes, we're
Right.
working tirelessly it's so confusing. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So, Ms. Collins, her parcel is not, or her home is not within 350 feet of the cultivation zone, but 300 feet from the parcel? Or is it the parcel that's within 300 feet of the parcel, or their home that's within 350 feet of the parcel?
So whenever there's a project approved by the planning commission or going to the planning commission or approved by the planning director, all parcels within 300 feet from the boundary lines of the project parcel, not the residence, the parcel itself, even if it's touching this much on our little map, are notified of either the hearing or the approval.
Okay, thank you.
On the setback map, is it 350 feet from these white squares or from other potential activities?
So the 350 feet is the cultivation variance, which is just from cultivation, which is, the growing of the plant, the processing, the harvesting, and that's the 350 feet setback variance. But the 300 feet setback is like the noticing requirement for approval or hearing.
Yeah, thank you.
Curious because on the map, it looks like there's an immature area that's off to the left of one of the greenhouses. So that doesn't count for noticing an immature area? An outdoor cultivation area?
So there's an area that isn't in the box that should be in the box.
That's what I was trying to figure out.
I'll check right now.
And this, while you're checking out, let's bring it back to public comment and we can address this all in discussion. Is there any more public comment? Come on forward.
My name is Mary Beth Hollenbach. And when I retired, I decided I needed to have that house at 201 Ward Placer Place, which is right next door to DeAndre's grow. And his grow was there when we moved in. And that was December of 2017. And we knew the grow was there when we moved in. And I think that if a thing is there when you move in, that you've already accepted it. You don't move in and say, okay, you can't have a pig farm if it's right next door. Because if you bought the land next to the pig farm, you got the pig farm. And cannabis is much more delightful than a pig farm. But I'm just saying, it's the same kind of situation. You know it's there. You bought the house. I don't understand. So the other thing I will say too is I'm a quilter. I sit at a particular window that looks out over the road that everybody keeps talking about. The vast amount of traffic on that road is construction for Sharp's various projects. I'm happy for them, but I don't understand them complaining about this small bit of traffic, which is a fraction of what they do, brought on by the marijuana grow, and they are not troublesome. There are times of the year when you can smell the marijuana, but you can smell it throughout Trinity County. We noticed you go to the coast, you smell the ocean. Go back on 299 toward Weaverville, you smell the pines, and you get into Weaverville, you smell the pot. And that's the smell of money. Cannabis is part of the vital economy of our county. If we don't have cannabis, we don't have a grocery store. We don't have restaurants. It's just the smell of money. That's my opinion. And I think I'm allowed to state it. I'm not really an aging hippie. I'm a retired librarian. But I do believe that people have the right to do what they've been doing on the property they've been in. And we're probably the closest people to the grow. Doesn't bother me a bit. So we support Mr. Johnson, and we hope that you will let him continue his business, which is vital to our economy. Thank you very much. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Mary Beth.
And we are in between DeAndre Johnson and the Collins property. And I do believe that is more than the feet we're talking about,
Thank you.
in my opinion.
Is there any more public comment?
Hello. What do you call yourself as your position right now? Anyway, hello, panel, commissioners. Dana from Hayfork. I'd like to start by highlighting Ms. Fisher's comments initially that this project is CEQA approved and is set to be issued. And then I'd like to comment on the appellant's comments and how inappropriate I thought that they were and inaccurate and offensive. Cannabis is legal in the state of California and in the county that we live in, Trinity County. It's legal. Carol, Ms. Fall, I find it hard to believe that you do not have your head wrapped around the 10,000 square foot of mature flowering canopy at this point. The fact that you are questioning the interim cannabis director says more about your prejudice than it says about anything else.
Please address the commission as a whole.
I think I'm done. Thank you.
Is there any more public comment?
Catherine Sidman, Lewiston. I'm in support of staff, which has done its due diligence. There are very few other projects that require this much background and this much due diligence on behalf of an applicant. All the boxes are checked. Everything is done. I'm looking at the map. I don't see these I don't see these houses on it. I think that there's a confusion about who's noticed and who actually is within the setback requirements. This is a really important business in our county, and these are important people. These are important neighbors of mine who organize toy drives and provide good jobs and reach out to their neighbors and say, do you want to have a road maintenance plan? Let's do it. Everything I needed to know about this, I thought was in the packet that staff had already submitted, the letters from the neighbors. But tonight when I heard that people made money, that Sharp Electric wired his facilities and is now saying that they don't want that there, that tells me everything I need to know about the priorities. If you were sincerely against cannabis for moral reasons, that you felt like you needed to protect your community, you wouldn't facilitate that business. So I think that this is a groundless appeal. And I think that everything here is settled. We're not going to decide what canopy is tonight. That is well settled over the last 6 years. It's not something new. That's not new information, should not appeal to this. We've had Drew speak to the fact, and he pointed out the definition. I'm in support of this project. And I think that I would urge you to swiftly squash this prejudiced appeal from people who purchased a house knowingly next to it. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And yet here we are. I count on you to do the right thing this evening.
Thank you.
Hello, I'm Garrett from Hayfork. I just wanted to touch on one comment in particular from the appellate that resonated with me when there was a baseless claim that DeAndre and his team at True North were possibly dumping chemicals into a stream that was nearby. I just want to point out that these gentlemen are leaders in our community and inspired me to improve my own ways that I do things. And the way that they operate their farm improves biodiversity, and more people should work like that. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Is there any more public comment?
Hello, board. Carl Wampler, Hayfork. I just want to express that we can't set the precedent of letting NIMBYs establish, and you're not even in the circle. We can't have this attitude with our neighbors. We can't allow this. They're fully CEQA compliant. They've checked all the boxes. I went through that review. It's very tough. It's 300 pages of mitigating. Everything that they complain about is covered in that CEQA document. Let's respect the CEQA document that we forced us to do and not let NIMBYism rule the day. Thank you.
Good evening, Commissioners. John Brower from Junction City, and I want to encourage denial of this appeal. The applicants have satisfied all the requirements of the local county ordinance, including the CEQA component, which is no small feat. It's a huge undertaking, and they've done it. They were there prior to the appellants, and like's been already said, the appellants, assisted in creation of this commercial venture that they now live next to, and got paid to do it. The appellants don't live within the residential setback. If they did, would be a different concern, but they don't. And the mature plant canopy definition has been in use since 2016. It has evolved a little bit over time, but Trinity now uses the state definition that's been in place for 6 years. So the applicant has done a good job of supporting the community. The applicant did jump into the permitting program early on. The applicant has satisfied all the requirements of the North Coast Regional Water Quality Control Board, Fish and Wildlife, LSAA. They can't use harmful chemicals or pesticides per the state regulations. And I'm familiar with their product, and it is of high quality and does consistently pass state labs.
with no detectable traces of any harmful chemicals. It seems like exactly the sort of project we would want to approve in Trinity County. Thank you.
Yes.
Good evening, Acting Chair and Commissioners. Lisa Wright from Lewiston. We pulled up the Code of Ordinances. Canopy means the designated areas at a licensed premises that will contain mature plants at any point in time. This definition is intended to mirror the definition of canopy as defined by the state of California or as may be amended. So let's put that to rest. He's not over canopy. He's not encroaching towards a medium. Ridiculous. And I'm very sad that something like that would be brought up at this point. Regarding the specific appeal, I urge you to deny the appeal. I think that, allowing allegations that are unfounded and that denote criminal activity perpetuates, as some also do by referring to cannabis farmers as dope growers, that we are criminals still in the legal space. That's what I believe this appellant is trying to do. Additionally, my staff, one of the owners of Flora, and you'll see, we assisted in the preparation of the CEQA document that has been through extensive scrutiny. All of these documents are. It's taking a very long time. As was noted, 300 some pages. All the appropriate mitigation measures have been adopted and approved. And you've seen the one regarding the roadways. Additionally, this particular operator is an excellent community member. There was a Toys for Tots drive that he sponsored last year that was mentioned. One of the very few brands that have been created, and I think that's really going to be the way to success, is to create a brand, get it into retail. They have successfully done this. They have been on the cover of national magazines for their success. They are forthright operators who do not violate the law. We also, my staff, accompanied county inspectors with the repeated harassment with complaints that there was cannabis growing, totally unfounded. What you would find, and there wasn't disturbance, nobody moved things overnight. You can tell when that happens, right? These are like dried up beds with weeds growing out of them. So the allegations are that. They're allegations unsubstantiated by facts. I can Photoshop about anything to make it look a certain way with a date stamp. I urge you to reject this appeal and to allow this operator to continue with his business and flourish and assist the economy in our local area. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more public comment?
Yeah, William Sharp. I'm also on this. I was on the complaint when DeAndre was found growing marijuana at 311 Ward Placer. I was also on the complaint when we found him to be growing at 3791 Oregon Mountain Road. I spoke with the cannabis division at this point, and mostly, because of the fact that I am a planning commissioner, and obviously involved in cannabis and approving and denying things just like this. It really surprised me that DeAndre would grow, number one, across from my house, knowing this. It surprised me even more that he would develop an LLC, purchase a piece of property less than a quarter mile from us, and start another grow at 3791. All this is public record. He purchased property in March for $600,000. Must be doing awful. Cannabis is just going to heck. $600,000 he purchased that property for in March. What it has to do with so could you control, this is my time.
You can just talk to us.
Thank you. So I was part of this. As being part of that, I was actually brought in by Interim Director Presley to have a meeting with him and Supervisor of District 2 to talk about this. talk about the fact that I'm a planning commissioner and I have illegal activity going around in my neighborhood. Okay, whether I built there yesterday or I built there 10 years ago. If you're acting in an illegal manner, you're illegal. If you want a legal business, then do it legally and you'll have a business. The fact that he's willing to do this illegally and get a license just means he's trying to promote his black market industry because he's obviously not selling it on the legal market. So when I approached Mr. Presley and District 2 Supervisor, I showed him the photos. I showed him the police report. I encouraged him because he said his staff had went up there and found nothing. And I said, did you go to 3791? Because we only filed one complaint on 311. And he said, no, nobody had gone to 3791. I'll check into that. And you can confirm this with Mr. Presley. We spent an hour in a conference room going over this. So all these things were known. It's public knowledge that he is Livingstone LLC. DeAndre Caldwell Johnson does own that LLC. He operates with that LLC. That LLC owns 3791. I went up there today. There's an active grow with well over 500 plants, I'm guessing. A lot of hoop houses, a lot of plants. It was an active grow. As to address, Sharp Electric as it stands, and do we do work for
Thank you, Bill.
marijuana growers?
Thank you.
All right. We do if you're legal. If you're not, we won't. It's as simple as that.
Thank you. Is there any more public comment from the hall? If there is no more public comment from the hall, we will move to Zoom.
Jake, go ahead.
Jake.
Hello, Commissioner Chris, Hayfork. Hey, this is a wild one. Feels we're at least 6-7 years ago in the same, maybe even in T. A number of years ago, I think 3 years ago, I was a licensed grow right next to DeAndre True North Family Farms. I gotta say, from the start, I'm gonna try to stay focused on actual facts and advice items here because there's just been a lot of egregious stuff. It's one of the clean operations I've been around. In fact, I borrowed his contractor that built his gate. It was the nicest built in Trinity County to build one at my own home. And what I say is that road has always been a terrible road, zero maintenance, and zero regard for it. I would echo that the gross majority of the traffic I've ever seen up there was the in construction project coming from on Bill Sharp's project. I want to echo that this farm has been licensed in conveyance, more hooping, a lot of farms since long before any involved with this the complaints were there. We went through this, I think, a year ago. It washed, and so it seems now Mr. Sharp has kind of pushed his son into filing complaints to go through the same process. I also can personally testify that, Sharp Electric, a grant of their business over the last 10 years or whatnot, working on illegal grows. I know many folks who have had them do extensive work, and I can tell you that this was before there was licensed grows and there was licensed grows. I'm also, as a point of order, completely confused as how Commissioner Sharp is sitting in that room after he recused himself, and how he is involved in conversation. I've never seen this in all of my years of sitting and playing for board of supervisor meetings. And I am also confused as to how he can be involved in any conversation with the planning commission having to do with cannabis. His actions
with this. As we've heard, he's private meetings with staff and supervisors about his complaints and filings. I hope that this mission can stand with its staff, stand behind code enforcement, and as we as cultivators are.
Commissioner Duncan McIntosh. I actually did reach out to county council and they said that the council.
But that is
what they said.
okay. Commissioner Sharp, thank you.
Could the people of the audience please be quiet?
I guess we can ask the commission to strike all of the comments from Commissioner Sharp, if we may be able to. Is there more public comment?
Rhoda?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hi, this is Rhoda Kane from Trinity Center. And yes, this is a doozy. There's a lot involved here, but all I'd like to say is, I love Trinity County. I love being a resident of rural America. I grew up in agriculture. I support all farmers. I love agriculture. I love gardens. I love farms. I love farmers. I love roosters. I love goats. I love pigs. And I like wheat too. And it makes me really sad. I mean, it breaks my heart that people move to rural America. People choose to move to rural America, move in next door to farms, to these beautiful, beautiful farms, and then decide that they don't actually like farmers or agriculture, or that they don't even like their neighbors. Like, it makes me so sad that we're even having this conversation. Thanks for your time. That's really all I have to say.
Thank you, Rhoda.
Adrian Keys.
Thank you, commissioners and staff. First off, I'd like to really apologize to specifically the applicant for not being able to be there. I've been a little bit under the weather and I thought it would be irresponsible to show up in person, but I feel really strongly about this particular appeal. Well, one, it's the first one. So this is an important hearing to have. I think the most important thing to consider though, is this hearing is specific to the approval of a CEQA document and the issuance of a license. All the rest of it, all the debate, I don't know. I wasn't there. I can't tell you all the history, all the past, can't tell you what's going to happen in the future, but I can tell you that this gentleman, DeAndre Caldwell Jones, has an approved CEQA document. It is passed through the consultants that the county hired. They have issued a compliance memo, and that's the only thing that we should be talking about. All the rest of this, send it to the sheriff, send it to the compliance specialists in the cannabis department, send it to the board of supervisors if you have some problems with how the ordinance is written, which I must say progressed over 5 years of public hearings. Maybe it would be a good idea to have a joint meeting with the commissioners and the supervisors and staff to explain to the commissioners how the ordinance works, how it's been implemented. Please deny this appeal of the issuance of the license for True North Family Farms. And please, this is an improper forum for a significant amount of this conversation, in my opinion. And I think it's an attempt to slander an individual. It's an attempt to slander an industry. And it's kind of embarrassing, I think, at least, not for me, but for the county. So that's all I've got to say. Deny this appeal, issue the guy his license, let him get to work. All the other allegations are unfounded and and malicious. Thank you.
Thank you, Adrian. Actually, my understanding is that a recusal cannot be present, but that listening is okay. When I recused for the Smith pit, I listened to what unfolded, but I had no influence or public comment to that. So I don't see any problem with that.
And I just wanted to make one comment as well. I didn't have any issue with any of it whatsoever until he started talking about himself being a planning commissioner. And that was kind of where it went. He shouldn't be like that undue influence on everybody on the dais.
I felt the same way. And at this point, I'd just like to extend an apology to the applicant for that. That was inappropriate. It was inappropriate. And as the vice chair, I'm still learning the role of different facets of that. And I was not prepared for that. And so I extend my apologies for not stopping that sooner. Let's proceed.
We're learning.
Next on public comment.
Liz.
Good evening, commissioners. Liz McIntosh again, Junction City. As many of you know, I was co-owner in the 4th license in this county and recipient of the first variance awarded. However, I no longer have a dog in this rat race, so my priority is not to be diplomatic. So I'd rather be frank. I'm sure you've all heard the term hater. I think this appeal could easily be defined as haterism at its finest. There is nothing that DeAndre could do to make his way of life acceptable to the appellant or his family. Here's a family that's invested in our community who may possibly miss the birth of his child to defend a livelihood that contributes to our community health. He's jumped through every ridiculous hoop that no other business in our county has ever had to do, and he is subject to appeal by someone who isn't even within the 350-foot setback to a dwelling, subject to a variance that was already brought before you by his father. And in my humble opinion, this is nothing less than harassment. We've all got issues with the ordinance as it was written, and I'm 100% in agreement on that, but that's not what we're here for tonight. Many of the people in this room participated in the whole process and some did not. Now they don't like the rules because they don't want it in their backyard. I can't blame the Sharps for bringing this forward and fighting for what they believe in. In fact, I commend them for it, and this is the forum. I'm sorry for the neighbor who moved in after DeAndre had established his farm, but it's a buyer's due diligence to know where they're moving and what kinds of activities are sanctioned there. However, I don't believe the commission should be in the business of redefining how the ordinance is interpreted in regards to the cultivation area. I believe past practice is king and can get you litigated by going against it. The Planning Commission receives all complaints because they are the body to decide which ones are in their purview and which ones are in the sheriff's. The one before you tonight has been determined to be in your purview and it's compliant on every level. It isn't up to the Planning Commission to judge illegal and compliant grow on allegations of nearby illegal growth. Excuse me. In addition, I feel it's an egregious practice to allow appeals from those who are not within the 350-foot setback. And further, I'd like to assert that the quote from about violent crimes quoted by the appellant was already debunked by the sheriff after Commissioner Sharp first asserted it. With so many acres still thriving in the black market, I think it's an utter travesty to spend this kind of time trying to shut down one of the very few who've stepped forward to be compliant and still surviving. I'm deeply moved by Mary Beth's testimony and the hypocrisy in this particular appeal, and I urge you to please uphold this variance and deny the appeal. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Liz.
Jackie?
Jackie, are you there? Okay, let's move on to the next one.
Hello, can you hear me?
Ah, Jackie, there you are.
Oh, yes.
Go for it.
Thank you for allowing me to speak. I am actually DeAndre's mother, and I would like to say that I sent my son to Trinity County years ago to attend Humboldt State. He fell in love with Trinity County. He has not returned to me since I sent him away. He received his master's degree in sustainable energy. He learned how to care for plants and agriculture in a sustainable and earth conscious way. That's all he talks about. That's all he does. And the fact that he is being accused of doing some illegal farming is highly offensive and very wrong. He would never do anything like that. He gives back to his community. He cares for his community. He cares for his streams. He cares for his mountains. He puts all of that passion into his work. And he does all of that in a very legal and upstanding way. And he always has, and he always will. So I wish you would get rid of these false negative accusations and disprove their appeal. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie.
Christy?
Yes, I just wanted to comment first on the board.
Christy, can you tell me where you're from, please?
Yes, I'm a cannabis accountant from another rural town, Ahwahnee, California. And so I just wanted to add some color to the canopy conversation that the board seemed a little in the dark about, right? So earlier this year, the DEA stepped in and clarified that if something doesn't contain, or a plant doesn't contain more than 3% THC, it is classified as hemp, right? And then we see that come down through the state as well, saying that it's mature canopy. So we can, again, as somebody already said this, put this to rest. But on another front, right, I just wanted to really ask the applicant, because he made these comments on the farm not having a mind for community and the environment, what his thoughts were on DeAndre's sustainable organic practices, since he is accusing him of that. And also on another side, can we just touch on the fact that, again, this is an appeal to a renewal application, because I know that the applicant stated several times that it was an illegal grow. And I'll just leave my comments at that.
Thank you, Christy.
Carla Avila?
Hello, this is Carla Avila from High and Palm. I'm kind of at a loss for words, to be honest, because I cannot believe some of what I've heard and witnessed tonight, as far as just the pleasant state of where this appeal is coming from. And I'm really concerned with, the fact that there's an FEIR. There are definitions for canopy and cultivation area, and it is clearly defined in the FEIR and in the definition as to how much mature canopy, how much immature canopy, the amount of compliance process that we've come to when we get to this point. Not that an appeal isn't a valid part of that process, but this appeal has no valid arguments to it. There are allegations, most of which have nothing to do with the project in question. I believe all the roadway mitigations are addressed in the Appendix C. And to be frank, I'm shocked that the level of conversation of where this has come to, it just reeks of bias and prejudice. I'm sorry, there's not another word for it. And there's another person here who would like to make a public comment as well, who's here in this room. So I'm going to pass it over to them.
Yeah, Jacob Johnson from High and Palm. And I'd just like to say that, these are good people. And, the great thing about living in Trinity County is that it's a tolerant community, and we support each other based on our merits, and everybody brings their own piece to it. And if you don't bring that piece, like somebody else isn't going to bring it because you're here and you fill that role. And it just feels, like everybody who's spoken, any of us could be in this situation with anybody just saying, hey, what are you doing here? We don't want you here. You grow weed, you do this, you're whoever you are. If that's how we're going to run this licensing program, It's kind of a travesty. So we need to support each other in our community. And I would hope to see the planning commissioners supporting the greater Trinity community and not approving this appeal and approving DeAndre's license. So thank you.
Thank you, Jacob.
Matt?
Hello, Commissioner Matt Jefferson, Coffee Creek. I just want to echo what the previous speakers are saying to please deny this appeal. I super support DeAndre and True North Family Farms. These guys have jumped through all the hoops, completed everything with CEQA. They're fully compliant. They've been doing this for years. This appeal is based on baseless claims. I mean, I could continue to go on and repeat all sorts of things. But these guys are good people. They're people that I want living in my community, and their business should be operating. I ask you to please deny this appeal so their license can get approved as quick as possible. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you, Matt.
Johnny?
Johnny, are you there?
I am here. Johnny from Lewiston. We all know that DeAndre should get approved. That's without a question. We don't even need to talk about that. I feel like what we do need to talk about is how Commissioner Sharp circumvented the system and had his daughter and son file this appeal, knowing that he can't file an appeal. And it just shows you what kind of a person he is. And I don't think that he should be the head of the planning commission if that's the route he's going to take just to stop someone from getting licensed in a program that he has a lot of control over. All I want to say is, when is Bill Sharp going to step down? Because this is
Please keep this to the project at hand.
Yeah, it is to the project. It's to the appeal. But I appreciate you guys' time.
Veronica?
Good evening, Veronica Kelly Albies from Douglas City. I don't have a dog in this race either, like Liz from Junction City stated, but I do find it concerning that the question regarding how complaints are handled could not be answered. It's been handled in ad hoc meetings, planning commission meetings, and board of supervisors meetings that I know some in the room have been a part of. How it works is that website is where all complaints go to the planning commission. The planning commission is then to vet what comes in to see if it's regarding cannabis. They are to check whether or not it's a parcel within the program. And if it is, then it gets referred to a compliance specialist within the cannabis division. If it is not if it is not a parcel that's in the program, it gets referred to the sheriff's office. And there have been proven times where the complaints don't get sent to the right department. That said, in regards to the applicant, as a community member, I appreciate and thank the applicant for his involvement and support of community events, and also Mr. Sharp, who also participates in community events and gives a lot back to the community, which as a resident, I appreciate and I support. And in regards to the appeal, I didn't see anything that was of moral outrage. It seemed to be about facts that they believed to be in existence. A picture that, as someone who's not in the industry, I looked at it and went, whoa, that looks like cannabis. I'm not a forensic scientist. I can't tell when or where that picture was taken, but it seemed to be a real piece of proof. I'm not saying it's what it is or isn't. And also about the variance. And the road, which even the applicant seems to want to deal with his neighbors, which I think is also fantastic. But in regards to the variance, I've heard this commission talk several times about why it's an annual variance. So it doesn't matter, because you guys have brought up, well, what if someone moves in later? Well, that's why it's an annual variance, so that you guys can then take that into consideration when you're considering that. Is this variance being requested because the topography, I'm gonna use a word that I've heard you guys use, is doesn't allow for any changes, or is the parcel too small for what the operation wants to be? I don't know the answers to that, but those are, like Carol said earlier, sometimes you just got to put all the rest aside, and there's emotions on both sides. And anybody who wants to say that's different is, I just needs to go back and watch the tape. But when you peel that aside, I think that is what your job is to peel that aside and take a look at some of these facts. And I do appreciate when you guys review the ordinance. It sounds like
Thank you, Veronica.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Veronica.
Marie?
Hi, this is Marie Peterson. I just wanted to also say, I'm embarrassed for the county that the planning commission has been at times looking like a circus because of the unprofessional behavior of Chair Sharp. And I think that it would serve the community for him to step down. And that's all I have. Thank you.
How's that?
Everybody.
Okay, if there's no more public comment, we will close public comment and bring this back to the commission for discussion. You need to take 5?
I need to take 5.
Okay, we will take a 10-minute break and reconvene at 8:20. At this point, I will reconvene this planning commission meeting. Public comment is closed and we're in discussion amongst the commission.
Do you need a motion?
Sure. Yep, we can humor a motion. Unless we'd like to have some discussion prior to the motion.
I got wrong the Rosenberg's rule of order.
Okay. If is there a motion on the table? Or Commissioner Barrett, are you present?
Yes, sir, I'm here. I would make a motion to deny the appeal and to uphold the director's decision to grant approval to this property. And if anyone wants to hear my thoughts on it, they can hear it, or we can wait for a second.
Well, before discussion, let's wait for a second and then we'll see. Do we have a second for this motion? I'll second that. For discussion purposes, let's discuss this.
So I have, I do try to do my homework. I pull out my zoning book and I try to read the regulations. And so I learned something tonight, definition of canopy. I'm going to have that stamped on my forehead. And I appreciate your patience. I appreciate Drew educating me. And anyway, I'll apologize if that was a distraction from the rest of the discussion. I'm the newest member and I'm just, I'm very learning. I also wanted to say to the licensee, I really appreciate your community mindedness. And, if I have any questions or decisions that I make, they're based on the issues. They're never based on, who the applicant is. I have two substantive concerns. I would have to say I disagree with the conclusion of the consultant on Appendix C in the EIR. I don't think that adequate emergency access is provided. I drove up to the site yesterday, and as many of you have heard before, I'm a volunteer firefighter. I drive a fire engine, and I did not see an adequate turnaround, and I did not see turnouts for emergency vehicles on that road. And in fact, UPS was coming to deliver a package, and I had to back up to a wider spot in the road to let them go by. And so that's why I was asking the questions about the maintenance of the road, who was responsible and all that, because that could be resolved through some additional condition of approval, a mitigation measure that required that maintenance to incorporate the adequate emergency access. That's fixable. But to me, the bottom line here is every time someone comes in for one of these initial variance requests, we tell the applicant, we've done this over and over again, this is a risk that you are taking by putting in all this infrastructure, spending all this money, not knowing if someone is going to move in, if the neighborhood is going to change, and if people are going to start objecting to your operation, despite the fact that you've spent all this money, maybe you've been in total compliance. That has never been a criteria for why you get a variance. And so an applicant is forewarned that this can happen. I mean, we do that all the time. And so I just don't think that this applicant, despite all the, good comments and support, if the neighborhood is changing, and and they don't want to have that variance renewed, that annual variance. I think the planning commission needs to honor that. And anyway, that would be my comment, my discussion.
Thank you for that, Commissioner Fall. If I may, my understanding is that the 350-foot variances are not what is at stake. It's appealing the license. The two neighbors that are within 350 feet of the cultivation zone have not filed any appeals. These are alleged neighbors that are farther than the 350 feet for a variance. This is an appeal of the license itself. And so, yes, you're absolutely correct. Within 350 feet of the cultivation area, there's two particular homes that have an opportunity to not allow that, but that's not what is happening. My take is that as the commission, we're here to uphold the ordinance and see if the project has gone through the due diligence to go through the process of completion. And we have a lengthy and thorough and legally sound EIR. This project has gone through that process.
Repeatedly.
That process addresses the roads, the smell, the neighbors, dust. I mean, it is very, very thorough. And so if it has gone through that entire process, it is not my place. I'm not a scientist to question all the analysis that has gone through. There is substantial due diligence. And so I've heard a lot tonight from different speculations, different accusations across the board. But what I'm looking at is the due diligence, and this project is in alignment with the ordinance and has been for many years and is continuing to be one of the first projects through the CEQA process.
And I'd like to follow up on that, Commissioner McIntosh, we've certainly heard a lot of talking tonight, and I believe Liz from Junction City and Adrian Keys from Hayfork hit every nail on the head. There's no need to repeat myself. The perceived improprieties tonight in political leanings is very obvious, and I think we need to be very cautious in how we proceed on that front. As far as this particular applicant, it has been proven the documents are there, the neighborhood is there, the scathing letters provided by opposing neighbors clearly state in favor of this applicant. He is not some fly-by-night. He has completed all tasks assigned to him and passed with flying colors. It is not for us to take away the ability from this young businessman to provide for his unborn daughter that is due any day now, to deny him the opportunity to provide an income for his family. A comment made that he bought a property back in May for $600,000 was completely out of line. Who are we to look at this gentleman's finance and then make a public comment about it? Good for him. Good for him for making a failing industry work for him. And he has passed every hurdle that has been placed in his way. It's no different than the project that came before us earlier tonight. It's time for us to get out of the way and allow these people to get on and to salvage what they can from a dying industry. There is no scenario where a customer who has been established for 7 years is now responsible for a fire turnout. If that's the case, a fire turnout would have to be a 2-lane highway everywhere we go in Trinity County, and that's not feasible.
Fire trucks are able to turn just like every other truck is able to turn, and just like every other truck that was up there for construction process. It's ridiculous to put the onus of a fire regulation on every property when we don't live in a community or in a geographical area where that is feasible. This guy has been here for 6 years now, if I believe, and I'm sorry, I don't see how we can possibly deny this person, or sorry, I don't know how we can not turn down the request. Get out of the way and let this gentleman lead his life and provide for his young family.
Thank you, Commissioner Barrett. Again, my understanding is that based on our lengthy analysis and discussion of the EIR, that roads are and fire access is addressed in the document, the legal document. And so it has processed through the muster of this document.
Well, if you read mitigation measure 314.4, provide adequate emergency access, they're saying, that license renewals need to comply with the fire safe ordinance of the county code. That fire safe ordinance requires turnouts that are 10 feet wide, 30 feet long. And we've talked about turnouts before with other subdivision, where we've kind of required people to have turnouts. The Scribner one, we spent a lot of time talking about a turnaround, whether it can be a hammer T or whatever, 40-foot radius.
Mm-hmm.
So, this mitigation measure in the Appendix C of the EIR, right in the document that's in front of us, says that they need to be in compliance. And I'm just saying, from me physically driving up there, I didn't see that.
Mm-hmm.
So, it is, like I said, that's fixable. But the bottom line to me is still the concern that next year, when he comes to renew the variance, who says more other neighbors have moved in and then they say, we don't want this here. I mean, there's a risk every year.
There is a risk, and that risk and the voice seems to be, if you're within 350 feet of the home, that voice is the loudest. If you're a quarter mile away, that voice is heard. If you live in Trinity Center, it's taken into consideration, right? And so at this point, within the 350 feet, there is no complaints on this project. And so, yes, people have moved in. They live 2 properties away, quarter mile away. They don't like what they have moved into. And we take that into consideration. And there is turnover, and there is new people that move in and out, and that is what our role is. But we also have to take into consideration that this is an established business that has been paying taxes and that has been here for since 2016, since the beginning of the program. It was likely, a legacy farm that was brought into compliance that is now paying taxes. That all needs to be taken into consideration.
And it is worth noting that if you do drive up there, this isn't a one-way road where you have to reverse out of. There are other roads that lead down to other places. There are turnouts. There are opportunities for people to turn around on this property or in close proximity to this property. Just past this property on the left is a wide turn that a tractor trailer could turn around in. And I've said it before, if you can't turn a fire truck around there, you shouldn't be driving one. And that's my personal opinion. But there is plenty of places up there to turn around. And one other point of contention, the comment about the sheriff's report about the crime, that has been absolutely clarified by Sheriff Saxon. And the problem with these facts, if you lay them out there and no one questions them, people start to believe them, and it's not an accurate representation at all of the crime statistics in Trinity County. So I say again, let's get out of the way. Let's allow this young entrepreneur to get on with his life and continue to be a solid member of our community.
Like it was stated, there's accusations on both sides. And it's our role as the commissioners to decipher through that and look at the facts at hand. And at this, the appeal was brought before us because of accusations, as well as concerns with the road. Those have been addressed with CEQA. The fire department or the fire road, that is not something that was part of this appeal. That's not something that one of the appellants or people concerned even brought up. And so we can discuss that, but that's not why we're here. That's my take. Is there any more discussion amongst this board before we bring it to a vote?
Yeah, I should probably weigh in a little bit myself. There's like a couple of people have said, there's a lot of emotion in the that has been discussed, like the Mr. Andre getting rid his wife about to have a baby. A lot of emotion. But wading through the emotion and stuff like that, getting down to what is factual, it was like, it comes down to, we have somebody, sorry, cramp. We're having somebody who, it's a 350-foot radius of the, from the farm. And one of the things, as I see it, that it was like the people who were in that 350-foot radius, it was like, I must confess, I didn't drive up there tonight and look at the road. I didn't, I tried to look at a different one that we're going to be discussing here in a few, but the road was so bad. But the thing is, it's like it's like the 350-foot radius. It was like, I get it. I get where Commissioner Sharp and the other people who are appealing, I get it if people don't like it, but also though there's it's not about the road tonight, it's about the 350-foot variance. And it was like, and the people within the 350-foot variance, they don't have an issue. And that's kind of where I see it. My personal self is like, I get that if somebody lives in a place, but it was like, but also though it's like within that 300-foot variance, that's kind of how I see it.
Commissioner Heaton, can you move into your microphone?
Yes, ma'am. Sorry. And it was like, and as for the photos and everything else saying somebody was there, it was like, I got 2 photos in my packet. And it was like, yep, it looks like there's weed there. And it says June 1st. I didn't get any photos saying any different. It was like, I don't know. But all I know is it was like, the people who live within the 350-foot don't have any complaints, is where I'm seeing.
We have staff that went there every month and said there wasn't cannabis. There is a picture with a piece of paper that says what the address is.
Correct. But
which we can take that into consideration.
Correct.
But that's an accusation. There's also accusations of stealing water from one property to the next, from neighboring parcels, but keeping it to the facts, right? And with the faith that staff is doing their due diligence. And if they say they have been there 3 times during the times that picture was taken,
correct.
You know what? That's the information that we have at hand. So at this point, I think we should bring this to a vote.
Commissioner McIntosh, how do you vote?
In denying this appeal, correct?
Thank you for.
Be in favor of the motion.
If, again, for Claire, we've had a lengthy discussion. The motion is to deny the appeal and approve the license. Is that
And approve the director's decision?
approve the director's decision? Yes. Thank you for that clarity.
Yeah, uphold the
Um,
decision.
Then my vote is aye.
Commissioner Barrett, how do you vote? Did I lose him?
Are you there, Commissioner Barrett?
Give me a moment.
Thank you.
Commissioner Barrett, how do you
Why it
vote?
keeps muting me. I vote in favor of the director denying the appeal and upholding the director's license. Aye.
Thank you. Commissioner Heaton, how do you vote?
I'd have to say aye.
And Commissioner Fall, how do you vote?
No.
Sorry. I have 3-1 in favor of Commissioner Barrett's motion to deny the appeal and uphold the decision of the director to approve the CCL 262 and the CCB 2229. Thank you.
Congratulations on your baby and get back to farming. Ooh, I'm out of the hot seat now.
We have one more, well, 2 more and then discussions. Kind of, sort of. We're getting through it. Yeah, it's going to be a late night.
Yeah. Yes, please. Thank you. Sure.
The one thing that I don't like. Okay. No, I was just saying. Yeah, that's what I don't like.
I'm always ready. All right. Well, thanks for taking over for me again, Duncan. We'll move forward with the agenda. Next on the agenda is item 4, annual initial variance, CCV-21-43. A request for an initial cannabis cultivation variance from a neighboring resident pursuant to Trinity County Code Section 17.43.050A8. The project parcel is located at 200 Quail Valley Road, Hayfork. APN number is 016-230-004. Applicant R. Brown, planner S. Fisher. It's time I turn it over to staff for your report.
Thank you, Planning Commission Chair, fellow commissioners, and members of the audience who are here and on Zoom. I'm going to spend the next few minutes discussing initial commercial cannabis cultivation variant CCV 21-43. As Chair Sharp stated, this license application is located on 016-230-004 APN number. And this is going to be an initial variance for the proposed cultivation activities. The project parcel is located in agricultural preserve zoning with an ag general plan designation. So when evaluating the variance, we use the criteria established in 17.43.050A8, which is the section of text which provides all of the guidance on commercial cannabis cultivation variances. And then it also draws from the section of our ordinance, the zoning ordinance, which discusses variances specifically. And There are 2 site plans and setback maps submitted. I initially used an older site plan, so now an out-of-date site plan plus residential setback map. But there is an updated site plan plus residential setback map attached. There was some shifting of the cultivation area. It is still only one residence that is within the 350 feet buffer, and it's the same residence, but I wanted to note that. And when you're looking at the site, especially the site plan calls out that Hayfork Creek runs through the parcel. So you have the creek, you have the 100-year floodplain, and then also on that top part of the parcel, you have a road running through. So just jumping into the special privilege criteria for variances, it can be seen that there really is no other place for the cultivation to operate on that parcel other than that bottom corner of it on the map. Theoretically, the cultivation can move more to the southern portion of the parcel, but even if it did, it would still be within that 350-foot setback. And the neighbor that the residence is within that setback has also submitted a letter of support of the cultivation and the variance being approved, which was also attached in that memo with the revised site plan. So for the second criteria, as the parcel is compatible, its zoning is compatible with commercial cannabis cultivation uses, the granting of a variance wouldn't be a use variance. It is consistent with that use. In addition, during the staff review of the variance and also just me talking to cannabis environmental compliance, there has been no indication thus far that the granting of the variance or subsequent license would result in any public harm to safety or welfare or to the adjacent parcels. In addition, this proposed variance is not found to be in conflict with the general plan or any specific plans, and it is not located in the RD1 overlay district. So taking into consideration all of these factors, staff finds that the proposed variance is exempt under the California Environmental Quality Act per section 15061B3, which states that the variance itself doesn't create any new potential for environmental impact. And because of that, staff recommends to the Planning Commission to find the project to be exempt from the California Environmental Quality Act under section 15061B3 and adopt resolution PC-2022-13 to approve the initial commercial cannabis cultivation variance to reduce 350-foot setback from the residence on APN 016-230-003. And there are possible alternatives to this, which are the Planning Commission can continue this item to the next meeting to ask for additional information or clarification, or deny the application for the initial variance. And I can answer any questions.
I have a quick question. Was the cultivation area in the top left-hand corner of the property addressed? If you look at your map, actually it's your third page, first map, top left-hand corner in between 327 and 431, there's a cultivation area on High and Palm Road that is fenced off. You can see it from High and Palm Road. And noticed, and on Google Earth, it shows a grow, plants. And I don't see that area addressed in your report here.
So taking a look at the site plan, unless it's like specifically called out in the site plan, some like Google imagery is out of date. So we don't consider that unless it's specifically called out, or maybe like the cultivation area changed with the Appendix C processing to like mitigate environmental impacts. I'm not sure when this photo was taken, but we usually we go off of what's called out specifically.
So you base this on your site visit?
So cannabis staff, I would have to see if I would have to lean on Drew to see if there was any cultivation operating within that top section of the parcel.
Okay, thank you.
So, they're requesting an initial variance and a license. So they don't have either at the moment?
No.
So are they in compliance if they have been growing? Did they have a license in the past?
I'm unsure if they had a license in the past. I believe the agent is here and can speak to it. But the cannabis division wants to, if any properties have been identified as needing a variance, they want that process to go through before they issue the license.
Should I chime in?
Yeah, please.
I was not on this particular site inspection, so I can't speak to the site conditions specifically. I wonder if Daniel Marvel is. And to your question as to whether they previously were licensed, yes, 100%.
Okay. So the cultivation activities that we see on the cultivation setback map, those were licensed.
Again, I'd kind of agree with Skylar. I'm not sure what aerial imagery was the source for this cultivation setback map that we're looking at tonight, but I would assume that that is old aerial imagery and doesn't reflect current site conditions, given that site inspection was performed.
So they were licensed in the past. Did they have a variance in the past? Because we're on the map where the cultivation activities were occurring are where they are proposed for the future. So that's within 350 feet of a structure, residence. So theoretically, they would have had a variance also in the past, a license and a variance.
So there was no variance in the past, but there are multiple cases in which the need for a variance wasn't identified, and then the licensee was requested to submit an initial variance application to continue operations.
So they're requesting an initial variance and essentially a new license for a previously permitted license facility.
For a 2022 license.
Okay.
So back to the initial license that you said that they had. Was that license on this property?
Sorry, I'm gonna need
Because when I looked at Google Earth, and it was like, and you could granted it was like 2021, but in this upper left-hand corner, it was very distinct that it was like there was a grow in the floodplain. And if it was licensed, that was a big question that I had. And it was like, but it was said from it was 2021 was the, I don't know, remember the exact date, but it was like, but there was a big grow and it shows that it's in the floodplain right here. And so that's a question that I had in regards to that as well. How does that being in the floodplain with it being a license? And that's a question that that I was struggling with a little bit myself.
I imagine that would have been an oversight if that was part of the licensed cultivation area.
Okay.
Sorry, you know me in water. What is the water source for this cultivation? I see that they're going to put in a groundwater well for cannabis and household use. They're not served by the Hayfork water system.
I would have to look into that.
Is there any further questions for staff?
Nope.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. This time we'd like to hear from the applicant.
Hi, my name is Scott Watkins. The maps that you're looking at were designed by myself and my former staff. And I think I can answer a lot of the questions that you guys have. My name is Scott Watkins from Hayfork, California.
Yeah, just back up. So the maps in the county's report are your maps, not the county's?
All these with the black square, that's my company, Bilderberg, and we designed those. Not all the maps, not all of them, but the proposed site layout, this one here, was designed by a former staff member, and this was designed by a different former staff member.
I don't think we have the second one.
We don't have any with the black.
You don't have this one?
We don't have any of yours.
It should be in your
packet
memo that came for,
Oh.
you had it on the
Okay.
counter when you arrived.
Here we go.
Memo for item.
So while you look for that, I'll just
here you go. Thank you.
talk a bit about the grow that someone mentioned on the north end of the property. That's historic legacy Prop 215 grow that has been completely remediated. It doesn't exist there. It predates the current landowner and applicant. So that's non-existent.
So the fencing and all that's been taken down?
That's not part of his property. There's another one, a property or two over. It was a licensed grow that's not on his property. So there might be some confusion on where those property lines exist if you're there in person.
So the one on the top corner of the county's map is no longer there. This one here. Right there.
That's my map, and that does not exist. That's old satellite imagery. I think.
How old?
Well, that map was designed July 6th of 2020, if you look in the top left-hand corner. And I believe at that time we were using some national maps, base maps. And that was, I think, flown in 2017, if I'm not mistaken. So it's pretty old.
Because I have Google Earth and mine's 6 months old and it still shows that.
I can't speak to that. I know that Google Earth does have multiple old maps. There's a way to toggle between the different years, but I assure you that does not exist today.
Great, thank you.
So let me talk a little bit about how this project has evolved since it first applied for licensure in February 28th of 2020. At the time, the county allowed processing within greenhouses. This map was updated, as I mentioned a second ago, July 6th of 2020. The property was licensed July 14th of 2020 under this map. The current conditions mirror more or less what is on this map. The second map is our CEQA map. This is our goal. This is what we want to grow into once we are approved to do so. It was mentioned that this license is not active. Very few licenses are currently active, but it has been continuously licensed or have an active application since February 28th of 2020. It had an extension letter that was provided when those were issued in 2021. And we've been under CEQA review since then. It has a state license that has been continually active, although this property has not been grown for well over a year. If you go to it now, it's all completely overgrown. I was actually at the property with the DCC and 2 fish and wildlife scientists and the impacted neighbor who's next door, who already wrote an approval letter or a support letter. Nobody has any problem with this property. When we applied, we were trying to stay outside of that 350 feet so we didn't need a variance. And that's why we cited all the processing within the existing immature greenhouse. Now, the building department at one point said, okay, you can't do that. You can't do processing in a greenhouse. Okay, there's a garage. We're going to put this in the garage. And then it was interpreted, oh, but now you can't do processing within a structure that's within 350 feet. So we've been trying to kind of adjust and adapt as things have been interpreted and reinterpreted. And we've been trying to stay, within what is allowed. When we were told in 2021 that we were going to be required to have a variance to do processing within the existing garage, we said, okay, well, if we're already going to need a variance, we checked with the neighbor. He said, fine, no problem. You have no problem with me. Feel free to do whatever you want on the property. You can be all the way up to 30 feet from the property line. So we designed what we thought was the best layout for the property, setting aside the need for a variance because we were told we were going to need that no matter what. So we're here today showing you what's existing since 2020, what we'd like to do, and then we're asking, we would like to be approved for the 200-foot setback, but we are, again, open to adapting the design of this project based on as much space as you're willing to give us. We would like the setback to be reduced from 350 feet to 200 feet. Specifically, again, that trigger is the garage and wanting to do processing within the garage. If we don't have to build a new building to do processing, we don't want to. But like I said from the beginning, we are anticipating the need to redesign this property again. And if you want to go with 220 feet and allow us to use the garage, but the rest of the grow stays outside of that, we're willing to adapt to whatever threshold you set for us. The well, it doesn't have a proposed well. The well was drilled in 2020. It's legally permitted and finalized. I have the depth of that. I believe it's 140 feet, and it produced 30 gallons per minute at the time of the drilling. And that's all in the supporting well completion report that was submitted with the Appendix C. Can I answer any other questions?
Do we have any further questions for the applicant? No, thank you. Good report. Okay, at this time, I'd like to open it up to public comment. Is there anybody on the floor that would like to speak?
Hello, my name is Robert Brown. I'm the applicant and the owner of the property. I just want to thank everybody for staying here. I really appreciate it. I know it's a lot easier to be home. But for this variance, approval for it, it would just allow my business to adapt with the times. It's currently legal. I haven't grown a single plant out of the 350-foot setback, even though it would have been a lot easier. But I have no problem with, following the rules and doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And I stayed out of this entire year because, what went on, and that's just fine. And thank you for hearing us tonight.
Thank you for your comments. Is there any other comments from the floor? Any comments on Zoom?
You have one, yep.
Matt, go ahead.
Can you hear me now? You keep saying.
Yes.
Okay. Matt Jefferson from Coffee Creek. I don't like super know this situation, but I just want to speak in support of this. You should pass this. Anybody that's trying to jump through all the hoops and trying to get through this licensing program should be applauded. And I don't understand why anybody's debating on if there was cannabis grown or not before anything was licensed. This program was put in place to encourage legacy cultivators to come into compliance. If there was a garden that was in a bad spot, well, they moved it to come into compliance. That's the purpose of the program. And even trying to debate something like they shouldn't get a variance because they were growing weed beforehand is disgustingly discriminatory. That's just horrible. You shouldn't even be speaking about that. we all know it was illegal beforehand and it's legal now, and anybody getting a license should be applauded and this should be approved. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you for your comments. Is there any other comments on Zoom?
Jake, go ahead.
Good evening, Commissioners. Jake Russ from Chris Hayfork. Just wanted to voice my support for any farmer, especially in the Hayfork community, that is jumping through these hoops and trying to be compliant and legal. I know that area pretty well. It's pretty densely covered in licensed and unlicensed grows. It's great to see somebody on a great property really trying to do it the right way. I think that, you know, the staff, county staff has laid things out, and I don't think there's any need for anybody to question the county staff's work. I know that's kind of ironic coming from me, but we've paid to send, with tax dollars, to send staff members out there to measure things and look at things and approve things, and create these reports, and for you guys to take that data and run with it. So thank you. I support this.
Thank you for your comments. Is there any other comments on Zoom? Okay, at this time, I'm going to close it to public comment and bring it back to the commission. Do I have a motion from the commission?
You know, I would say to make a motion to grant the request for the variance. I think I could go along with that.
Do I have a second?
Would that be a variance for from 350 feet to 200 feet?
Yeah, yes.
Okay, I'll second that motion.
Okay, I'll bring it back to the commission for discussion.
Okay.
Feel free, commissioners.
Okay. I'll share my thoughts in the matter in looking at the maps that the gentleman gave us there. One, the neighbor isn't opposed to the 200 foot, but if you look at the map that was given, it's like to stay outside of that 250 or that 200 foot radius. Granted, he could move farther south into the wooded area. It was like and granted, it looks like you could probably jiggle things around and make it work to where he would be in compliance without the 350 thing. But it's like we're going to lose a lot of the oak trees and everything else that's there. And it was like my personal opinion on that is I think I would rather just see where they're at, run with it, and it was like, and be good.
This is agricultural land. It's ag preserve. It's surrounded by ag. This is a farming community. It's above the floodplain. If it wasn't, it's surrounded by farms and agricultural land. I wouldn't consider the zoning is agricultural, but I would assume that it was established as agricultural because of the flatland, not the oaks above it. So I would agree. It's the most appropriate place to have a farm is on flat valley land.
I agree. It's a zone for it. The solid presentation. The applicant answered all my questions, and it's a farm in an agriculturally zoned area. Yes, I'm behind it.
So I'm okay with this project, but I just want to point out two things. It is within a critical water resource overlay zone, so I hope that the mitigation measures in the EIR, which really didn't address that overlay zone, are sufficient. And in light of the last discussion, I just want to point out to the applicant that there is a risk if someone buys that property next to you, moves into that house and doesn't want to, wants to object to this annual renewal of a variance, that's just a risk. So.
And I'd like to follow up with Commissioner Fall's sentiments exactly. The variance is unfortunately the tool we're using. It is a horrible tool. It sets you up for failure. It sets your neighbors up for failure. So buyer beware, you beware that this is not a for sure thing. And quite possibly you could be back here again next year. I do think it is an appropriate place for this project. I think you've designed it well. I think you guys are humble and are willing to work with anything that the county puts out there for you to work within. So we appreciate that. We appreciate your forwardness and the presentation of your project. I am in agreement with it. Is there any further discussion? Okay, let's go ahead and have a vote. Need a roll call?
Commissioner McIntosh, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Heaton, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Sharp, how do you vote?
Aye.
Commissioner Fall, how do you vote? Aye. Commissioner Barrett, how do you vote?
Aye.
Thank you. 5-0 to approve. The CCL, or no, to approve the variance 2143, excuse me.
Thank you.
Best of luck to you.
Item number 5 is an annual initial variance, CCV-21-36, a request for an initial cannabis cultivation variance from neighboring residents. Pursuant to Trinity County Code Section 17.43.050A8. The project parcel is located at 2021 Barker Valley Road, Hayfork, APN 015-420-006. Applicant O. Magid, apologize if I messed that name up, Planner S. Fisher. This time I turn it over to Ms. Fisher for a report.
Thank you, Planning Chair and Commissioners and members of the, member of the public in the audience and the multiple on Zoom. The applicant for CCV or for this project withdrew this week. So they are no longer pursuing this application. We meant to mention it in the beginning so that it could be struck in, but here we are. So I recommend to the Planning Commission to open public comment, close public comment, and then continue the hearing.
Thank you, Ms. Fisher. This time I'll open it to public comment. Is there anybody that would like to comment on the floor? Anybody on Zoom?
Just a moment, let me look. No.
Okay, at this time I'm going to close it to public comment and bring it back to the commission. Do I have a motion?
So I move that we continue application CCV-21-36 to an unspecified date.
Do I have a second?
Well, if they withdrew it, do we need
They
to,
might come back, so.
is that the proper process would be continue it until they bring it back?
Mhm.
Is that the proper
That's what
mechanism?
staff recommended.
I think because the application is completely withdrawn, so this application is closed.
Yeah.
Okay.
So then we don't
There's
need
no
to
motion
continue it.
Yeah.
I think we can just continue on to the next item on the agenda.
I withdraw my motion. Sorry, I withdraw my motion.
Motion withdrawal accepted, and item number 5 is closed.
I second that.
Okay. With that, we'll bring it back to planning commissioner reports. So commissioners, I think everybody went somewhere over the last month or two. So you guys want to fill us in on what you've been up to? That'd be great.
Yeah, a few weeks ago, Commissioner Barrett and his companion and my wife and I went down to Pleasanton and participated in I believe this is a 92nd annual Planning Commissioners Association Conference of California. And it was a very insightful conference. Not only being able to just touch bases with commissioners from all across the state and hear the differences and also the similarities amongst all the challenges. I learned that rural residential is the battleground in every single county, that Trinity County is not alone in the struggles where it comes to agricultural and rural areas meet the residential homes. We had there was the prior vice president of marketing of Gallo Wineries spoke and had just an incredible understanding of water rights and the water issues facing California from the Central Coast, the Central Valley, the North Coast. We even took a tour of a reclamation project that was 1,000-acre gravel reclamation project where the city invited a company to come and dig tremendous amounts of material out of the ground and turn it into gravel and cement to build all the skyscrapers and all the cement in the Bay Area. And in the end, there will be numerous ponds and lakes that will be used for water storage. It was mind-boggling, just the magnitude, how large it was, and the vision that it'll be finished in 30 years from now. And I mean, for instance, they dug down 200 feet and they said they needed to take the water out to be able to extract it. And so, of course, I asked, how much water are they needing to pull out of this 200-foot hole that is acres wide, and it 3,500 gallons a minute is what they're pulling out of there to be able to extract it. And they're using all that water to wash it, and it all goes back. But it's just the size and the magnitude of these projects. It just kind of puts some relativity to the size of our projects here at home, right? As well as went to the Snow Water Temple, which we had a just deep understanding and education about the Hetch Hetchy Water Project in San Francisco, the politics, the business behind it, the need for that type of water, and the engineering that went into it. It was quite fascinating. Very grateful for the county and the taxpayers that funded this educational journey.
I would very much agree with that. Thank you very much to the county for providing us the opportunity for additional training so that we're a better, well-rounded commission. Thoroughly enjoyable, very informative, and lots of networking and team building. Again, thank you very much for the opportunity to go and to somewhat represent Trinity County at California Planning Commission.
Commissioner Fallon, Commissioner Heaton, anything?
Sure. So Commissioner Sharp, Commissioner Heaton, and I were at the Institute for Local Government Regional Planning Commissioner trainings in Arcata. And again, thanks very much to the county for allowing us to go and paying for that. I learned, I think, two things that were really new to me. One was so SB 8, which went into effect in January, really limits the ability of a planning commission to deny the subdivision of a residential parcel into 2 parcels, which I wish I would have known that before we went through all the discussion on the Scribner parcel, because I think we could have saved a lot of time, because it's actually intended to facilitate the split of residential parcels into 2 parcels and creating more locations to build homes. The state's trying to address the housing. So we had a housing expert give us quite a detailed explanation of the recent changes in state laws. And so that was really, really helpful. And the other thing that I learned was there are limitations on private discussions. I know planning commissioners get a lot of requests. Can I talk to you about such and such a project? And basically, they were explaining that all the planning commissioners should have the same information on which they make their decision. And if they don't, there's certain inequities that are violations of the law. So unless you can really repeat everything that that person said to you, and share it, don't really do that. So that, because I'm always trying to be very helpful. So that was like, okay, well, make sure they're talking to the planning commission as a whole, so we all have the same information. Write it down, whatever, so that we're all on the same page. Nobody knows more than somebody else, when they're trying to decide an issue. So that was useful. Last thing, I just wanted to thank Drew. Drew, I should have done this while everybody was here, but I really thank you for your patience and for helping me learn the ordinances. Thank you. Great job.
I want to say, I was like Miss Paul said, that we were at that training, and it was really good. I came away with some really good nuggets as well. And there's a lot of insight that was like, wow. And then it's like realizing it's like some of the, like we were sitting at a table with the gentleman from Crescent City, and it was like, the thing is like, sometimes there's like, you look at what we deal with and then you look at what other people deal with. It was like, wow. It was like, sometimes I wish I had what other people dealt with. And it's like, and they have a larger variety. I must confess, it's like they have a larger variety of what they deal with than besides cannabis, because honestly, it's like, yeah, we have cannabis, but yes, that's what we have basically is cannabis. And it's like, sometimes it would be nice if we had some larger variety of things going on too.
It was funny. We were the Trinity County back in the corner contingent, and everyone else is like, there's all these individual cities and the Parks District, and everybody has a planning commission. And we're like, we're Trinity County.
It was interesting to see how different our county is.
It's true.
Than every other municipality and how we operate.
Yep.
Good. I was at that same meeting. I actually learned some basic stuff, which usually is what I need. So one of the things you guys have noticed is tonight, when we do a motion, that we do it properly. So we get a first, we get a second, and then we bring it to discussion. I had failed to lead you guys properly in that. So I apologize. And that's why we're doing it the right way now. So that's what I learned, among many other things, but that was the take home for me, is to do a better job as your chair. So I attended that. I also had the privilege of attending a Caltrans meeting this week in regards to our historical district here in Weaverville. The Caltrans is having a discussion about how to manage and mitigate the trees that are currently in place along Main Street. They're not conducive for taking care of over long term. It was a poor choice of trees 50 years ago, and now they're trying to figure out what to do with those trees. So the meeting was all about that and all around that. I'm sure that discussion will come up in the Board of Supervisors here shortly, and they will probably make a determination on how they stand and how we stand as a community on what is to happen with those trees. So that's pretty much the lie to me. I appreciate you guys taking over for me when I was gone last month. I was hunting, so it wasn't a family emergency, but sometimes it is. You just got to get out.
That is an emergency.
So anyways, yeah, that's all I have to report. So thank you guys. Thank you for your commitment to going out and getting educated and attending state programs and things that keep us relative. So that's important, I think. Yeah. Does the planning director have a report?
Of course. Skylar, give me my report. Thank you. She wrote it, but some of the stuff I actually was involved in. So December 22nd, are we gonna have a meeting?
No.
No.
I second that.
Already.
Hard.
Okay, so she did put down that there are alternative dates, December 15th or 29th, if you want those to be considered, or if we have enough that we do need to actually have another date. But it was just that was so close to Christmas, we didn't really want to push the.
I would think that let's not determine if we need another date until we get a little closer to that time and see if we need to schedule 2 for the month.
Yep.
Yes. December 8th. We have a meeting December 8th, correct? Right.
Yes. Okay, so one of the things I was told that we need to do as well is we have Chad over here that has not been properly introduced. So Chad, if you would like to introduce yourself to the planning commissioners, that would be fantastic.
Hello, I'm Chad Fougeron.
Welcome, Chad. Glad to have you on board.
All right, that was very anticlimactic. I don't know why you wrote that in here, Skylar, but okay. But the one big thing that we do have coming up next week, and I'm sure everybody's very, very aware of this, is the general plan meetings that we do have scheduled. And Skylar will be taking one part of the team, which is her, and I'll be taking the other part of the team, which is me. And we'll be meeting with the general plan team in different places to facilitate and help out with community meetings. We really don't have a part to play except to show up, and then we're supposed to bring food. So that's one of the other things. So everybody will be happy when they see us. But those community meetings are going to be really, really serious because these community meetings are going to be the bedrock of what becomes the community plans. So that was something that in the very beginning of the general plan meetings, that it came to the forefront very, very quickly. And so we definitely want to be able to give that back to the communities as they have requested. So that's going to be one of the big cruxes of going out there and have these community meetings. So
Deputy, may I ask a question about that? As a planning commissioner, is that within our ability to speak at these meetings from the standpoint of the public? Or is there
Be listening.
should we just be listening? Yeah, thank you. Yeah, like
I would really love to believe that all of the planning commissioners are very well known in their districts. And so if there were any specific questions that you might get from people that maybe didn't have the opportunity to show up, that you could. But as far as the speaking parts, essentially it's going to be the general plan team are going to do all the speaking. We were even told that we don't really even have a speaking part. We'll just be there in case somebody has some kind of a question for us. So I would imagine it would be the same thing for the planning commissioners. It would just be supporting that.
Oh yeah, I have no intention of speaking other than like if it's public comment. I mean, my understanding is staff is there to get feedback from the public, from the communities.
Yes.
Right. And so myself as a, can I speak as a citizen and not as a planning commissioner, or as a planning commissioner, is it within my right to give my opinion? I just want to know because I intend to attend.
I would just differentiate. This is what, I have 5 constituents come to me with this. And so I would like to bring this up on their behalf as a private citizen. This is what I can bring up as well, and I mean,
just vocalizing. Yeah, absolutely. I definitely have no intention of going there as a planning commissioner. Right. Okay. I think that's clear.
Yep. All right. That's all I have.
Thank you so much for that report, Director. We appreciate you guys' effort and work. Get up.
Chair.
Bring good snacks.
May I add one thing, if you don't mind?
Sure.
I've just been reading in the newspaper a lot of cannabis licenses have been processed over the last few weeks. There was all spring long, there was, if any, one or two, but for the last, I don't know, every time I read the newspaper, there's like 7 or 8 licenses getting through. And I'm not sure what's going on, what logjam was opened up, but I just want to express my gratitude for your diligence in allowing these businesses to continue operating in a timely manner. Thank you, sir.
Okay, with that, I think I'm going to go ahead and adjourn the meeting. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I'll second that.
Motion approved. Meeting is closed.
Oh.